sorry, I had to go put my son down. And where was I? I was at oh, I went and grabbed a blanket. Our laundry room is in our bathroom, and I grabbed a blanket that just come out of the dryer and I laid it down on the floor. And I just laid down, and every position I laid in just it made it worse. It seemed like it made it worse. I remember I laid on my back, and I just kept pushing. And um, this is really going to be graphic, unfortunately, and there's no other way to explain it, and it's really hard to explain, and nobody really understands why there's certain movies that I can't watch because of this. And uh, but I just remember I pushed for a while, and then the pressure kind of went away. I felt this like pop, and then the pressure went away. And I leaned up, and on the floor in front of me on the blanket was just this big ball of tissue. At least that's what it looked like. And I thought, that's a humongous clot. I mean, what could this be? And I just, out of pure curiosity, I pushed it over, and it was my it was the entire amniotic sac. My son was still inside of it. The placenta, the tissue that I seen was the placenta. It had ripped, it had just torn into shreds. And he was laying there in his sack and still floating around in his fluid. And he looked, he was perfect, but he was really, really small. I was only about 12 weeks or so. And so he had his little hands, and you could see the fingers starting to form. And you guys I could see his ears. He had ears already, and I just sat there in complete and utter shock by what I was seeing. I just couldn't believe that's what had just happened. And again, I couldn't speak, so I was like, the bathroom wall is connected to our bedroom, so I was banging on the wall to wake my husband up. And he came in, and he's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I moved out of the way so he could see. And I looked up at him, and as soon as I saw his face, I just lost it. And I hadn't realized then that I was still bleeding. I was bleeding really bad. And I got up. I went to stand up, and I about fell over. And we got me in the tub to clean me up. And it just, the blood just kept coming and coming and coming, and just, it wouldn't stop. No matter how hard we tried, it just wouldn't stop. And again, I was getting really, really weak. And so he's like, "Get dressed. Don't worry about your clothes. Just get dressed. Put a towel between your legs and go get in the car. I'll be out in a minute. We're going to the emergency room. We're going back up to Washington County, and um, make sure you're okay because you're bleeding really, really bad." Um, we the entire time there, all the cramping that started, it was really bad. I was having contractions, and they were really bad. And um, uh, I got there to the emergency room. He wheeled me in, and he told the receptionist what was going on. And without even hesitating, she called a nurse back. They came in, they wheeled me in. They took my blood pressure real quick, took my temperature real quick, and then they got me to a bed. I hadn't even been registered in yet. I love that hospital for this reason, and um, they put me in a gurney on a gurney in a private room in the emergency room that had a door, didn't have a curtain, had a door, and they put me on the pads that they put down underneath you um, to catch any fluid or bleeding or anything like that, and they put four of them down, and on I went through four of them 4 times in the course of 2 hours, and I was passing humongous clots still. Um, by the time a doctor from my office came in at 5 o'clock that morning, I had already lost. The nurses said I probably lost two to three, about 2 liters of my blood, and they were pumping fluid in as quickly as they could get it into me. Um, I went in that morning for an emergency DNC to remove the rest of the placenta tissue. Um, the doctor that came in, I never had him before. We tried to. We asked him what was going to happen to the baby because we had brought what had come out with us, and the nurse had already collected it and taken it to a lab, or had collected it, and the doctor said, "Well, we'll take it up to a lab. We're going to do some testing on it and see. We're going to do some testing on the tissue and see what happens. See if there's anything going on with you." And I said, "No, it's not tissue. It's a baby. A baby came out." And he's like, "No, it's tissue." I'm like, "No, it came out in its sac. Everything came out. It's not tissue." And he just sat there, he argued with me the entire time. And it wasn't until after he got in, I guess, and done the DNC, and he had gone and checked with the lab what was brought in because there wasn't much inside still. And I guess he was trying to figure out what had come out. Um, he came up to my husband later on and he apologized for saying what he had done. He saying what he had because he didn't realize he didn't understand what we meant. And um, he didn't apologize to me. He apologized to my husband though. Um, but I just remember waking up, and as soon as I woke up, I started crying again. And going home, my niece and nephew were with us at the time, and they just we just told them a couple weeks before about the baby, and they they didn't understand what had happened, and so it was hard going home, and we had already got our room ready, like cleared out for the nursery, and um, yeah, it was hard, and I don't wish that kind of experience on anybody. I know miscarriages happen, natural miscarriages happen all the time, but that was horrible. Um, it's gonna be the only time in my life that I actually give birth, and it had to be that horrific. So, but anyway, I had I told my husband, I was like, we're not trying again anytime soon. We're not, and I can't take this again. Then they decided my doctor's office decided they were going to do some tests and see if there was anything wrong with me physically that was causing all of these problems. And um, so I went in, I had my progesterone test, I had my blood clotting disorder tests, I had all kinds of stuff. Everything came back normal or fine. And he said chucked up the first one to bad luck, and the second one I had a severe case of placenta previa that the other doctor misdiagnosed, and and had some